Hey everyone, Mrs. Spatola here. Here are the answers from last night's homework. Take a look. There's numbers 1 through 6. And if you need to, pause the video. And then here are the rest of the problems, 7 through 8. Hope you did well. Let's look at today's lesson. Today's lesson is going to be the distributive property with area models. Also, distributive property with word problems. How can you use the distributive property with area models? Well, if you take a look over on the right in our little info box here, you'll notice a diagram. It is one large rectangle with two smaller rectangles inside. So what's going to happen with these is we want to find the area of the entire model all at once. So what you're going to do, it's going to be a combination of So what the distributive property tells us is that with this entire diagram, we can use the width here of 6 and then actually combine the length of 10 plus the length of 4 and multiply the 6 by each one. So if we were to set this problem up in the info box here at the top, it would look something like this. 6 times 10 plus 4. And then we would use the distributive property. Now, a lot of you might look and say, well, we can just use mental math. Well, that's all fine and good, but it's always important. You have to pay attention to what the directions say. So in this case, it would be 6 times 10 plus 6 times 4. We have 60 plus 24 for a total of 84. And then it's square units. Very important. 84 square units. Let's jot that information down in our do now. So let's just basically take some simple directions. Step 1, and write this down. Look at the diagram. And step 2, or letter B, see how you could set it up so it fits the setup for a distributive property problem. So you have the outside number multiplied by the two addends inside the parentheses. How can you use the distributive property to solve each of the following area models? Well, once you start doing these, it starts to become obvious how the setup of the problem goes. The easiest way that I like to look at it is when you have two shapes. For example, in this case here, you have two shapes together. What I would like to do is take the width of 2, and I would put that here. So this number's going here. And then basically these two at the top are being combined, and then drop that directly into the setup for our distributive property problem. And now you can simply go ahead and follow the directions for the distributive property. And the important thing is we're going to distribute the 2 onto each of the numbers inside the parentheses. So very simply, this becomes 2 times 2 plus 2 times 6, and we get our final answer of 4 plus 12, which gets us an answer of 16. Now be careful, square units. When we are looking for area, it is always in square units or units squared. Let's take a look at number 5. Number 5 is pretty much the same type of setup. So we have 4, and then I notice I have a length of 2 and 10. So all I'm doing now is just dropping these numbers into the setup for the distributive property. And then I multiply the 4 onto each of the addends inside the parentheses. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous lesson. We had talked that the distributive property is also known as the rainbow method. If you were to make different colors for multiplying, it kind of looks like a rainbow. That's why it's called. Some of you may have been wondering, why did she call it that anyway? Or why would they call it that? That's why. So this is 4 times 2 plus 4 times 10. And if you go ahead and solve, you have 8 plus 40, and our final answer is 48. Now, how do we report our units? Square units, or you can even write it this way, units squared with the little 2 on the top. So either way is fine. Let's continue on and do some practice. Number 2 says, using the distributive property, calculate the area of the rectangle to the right. So here is our problem here. And what you're going to do is try to set up using the distributive property. Pause the video and give it a shot for the setup. Did you get the setup right? Well, if you did, then you can simply go on and multiply and solve for the square units. Go ahead and do that now. Pause the video. And if you did the work correctly, you should wind up with 153 units squared. Now let's take a look at number 3. Try your best with number 3. Pause the video and set it up. And there you have the setup. Now some of you may say, well, do I have to put 15 before the 4? It doesn't matter. Which property, by the way, here's a review question. Which property says the order in which you add doesn't matter? That would be the commutative property. Good. Now, continuing on with the distributive property, go ahead and distribute the 5 onto the 2 addends and get your final answer. Pause the video. And there you have the answer to number 3, 95 square units. Number 4 is a good one. It says 6 friends are going to the state fair. The cost of one admission is $9 and the cost for one ride is $2. Write and solve an expression using the distributive property to find out how much it would cost for all 6 friends to get in and go on one ride. Alrighty, so I read the question. What's the first thing you have to do when solving a word problem? You need to do what? Definitely identify. What are you supposed to identify? Identify the question. Awesome. So we're going to identify the question. We're going to go back and reread this. And if I look back, hey, I don't see a question mark, so there's no question, right? No, that's not true at all. If I go back and look, I can see that the directions are telling me that I have to write and solve an expression. An expression has no equal signs using the distributive property. Oh, look, I have it already set up down here. To find out how much it would cost for all 6 friends to get in and go on one ride. So now we have to figure out, how are we going to set this up? Well, I noticed that there are 6 friends going to the state fair. And then the cost of one admission is $9, and the cost for one ride is $2. So if I go back and look at my question, I want to find out how much it would cost for all 6 friends to get in and go on one ride. So I think I'm starting to get the picture. Pause the video and think about how you could set that up. Well, if you think about it, the 6 friends are going to the state fair. So I'm going to put the 6 on the outside here. And then I want to find out the cost of one admission, which is $9. By the way, what is admission? If you said the cost for getting into someplace, that would be correct. So it's $9 to get in for admission, and the cost for one ride is $2. So they want to find out the total for all 6 friends. So now basically all I have to do is set up the distributive property. Go ahead and solve that. Pause the video. And as you can see, the total was $66. What happened here was we multiplied the 6 friends times the $9 for admission for each person, plus 6 times the $2 it costs for one ride. They wanted to figure out how much it would cost for everyone to go on one ride and to get in, and the total was $66 total. Great job on that page. Hope you did well. And as we continue on with more practice, let's take a look at the directions here. Number 5, it says using the distributive property, calculate the area of the following rectangle. So what you're going to do is, again, apply the distributive property like we have with some of the previous problems. How would you set this up? Pause the video. And if you set it up 5 times 2 plus 9, that's awesome. Now you want to multiply the 5 by each of the numbers. I'm going to do that out on the side. So it's 5 times 2 plus 5 times 9. And then you can just continue solving. If you'd like to pause, you can. If not, you would see that the total is 55, and it's square units because it's asking you for area. Okay, 55 square units. For number 6, we're going to read the question. It says, use the table below to answer the following questions. Number 6, it says 4 6th graders and 9 7th graders bought binders at the school store. Use the distributive property to help calculate the cost of the binders. Now, right off the bat, if it tells me that I have to use the distributive property, I need to set it up, and then I need to show the work. If you just straight multiply, you're going to not get credit for anything. A lot of you have in your head, oh, I'm going to do it my way. Well, unfortunately, if you don't follow the distributive property and you don't follow directions, you will not get credit for that. Okay, let's take a look now at the question. Again, it said use the distributive property to help calculate the cost of the binders. All right, so what do we have? I see we have 4 6th graders and 9 7th graders. I will tell you those numbers were put there to trick you. All right, try to set it up and see how you do. By the way, you're going to use the table above, so make sure you use that too. All right, so hopefully you pause the video and let's take a look at the answer. Be careful, the binder cost is in the chart. And if you set it up correctly, you would have $5 on the outside times 4 plus 9 on the inside. Now you're going to apply the distributive property and you're going to show the work as necessary. And there you see it was $65 total for all the binders. Okay, let's look at number 7. Number 7 looks a little bit similar to number 6. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. It says 12 8th graders bought a new agenda book and a new notebook. Use the distributive property to help calculate how much the 12 8th graders spent at the school store. Okay, so I know the question is I have to determine, using the distributive property, calculate how much the kids spent at the school store, 12 8th graders. So again, I have 12 here, so I know I'm going to put 12 on the outside. Why? Because there's 12 students. And then if I go into the chart, I can see a new agenda book and a new notebook. What is the cost? I'm going to go in and look at the chart. I see notebooks are $4, and I see an agenda book, wow, is going to cost me $10. So I'm going to make sure I put that in here. I'm going to go back down to number 7. The agenda book was $10, and the notebook was $4. And now you're going to go ahead and apply the distributive property. Why? How come you're not just doing 12 times 10 and 4 in your head? The reason why is because it says to use the distributive property, and we have to follow the directions if we want to continue to do well in math, right? Right. Okay, pause the video and give that one a shot. And as you can see for number 7, the total that was spent, the 8th graders spent at the school store was $168. Let's go ahead and look at number 8. Alrighty, number 8. Each day you run on a treadmill for 10 minutes and lift weights for 15 minutes. Write and solve an expression using the distributive property to find out how many minutes of exercise you do in 5 days. So basically they're saying for 5 days they're doing the same thing. So the question here is going to be write and solve an expression, and I definitely want to make sure I use that distributive property to find out how many minutes of exercise you do in 5 days. Well, that number 5 is very important. I can see that I'm going to run on the treadmill for 10 minutes and lift weights for 15 minutes. But I'm not sure how many days I'm going to do that until I actually read the problem and I see that it's for 5 days. So your 5 days goes there. And then what are the 2 exercises that I need to fill in? That would be 10 minutes and then 15 minutes. So now all I have to do is I'm all set up. Simply, all I want to do now is to multiply. So this is 5 times 10 plus 5 times 15. And then I'm going to go ahead and solve 75. So that gets us a total answer of 125. Now, 125 what? If I look back, I can see it's 125 minutes of exercise. Minutes of exercise. And I am done. So the next page is going to be your homework, very similar to the previous pages. You have number 6 to finish. You're going to use the chart. Number 7, you're also going to use the information above. So for number 7, you're going to use the information above, complete a distributive property problem. Then you have 2 review questions. All right, let's talk about these review questions. These are questions that are going to be a little tougher. Remember, parentheses first, and if there's parentheses within the parentheses, those go first. So it's parentheses, exponents, multiply or divide, whichever one comes first in the problem, and then add or subtract, whichever comes first in the problem. Now, you might be looking at the ones at the bottom of the page and saying, hey, Miss Spatola, what about these? Well, these I'm going to actually put a little star next to as well. These are going to be challenge problems. I really would love to see you try those on your own. Okay, try them on your own and see how well you can do. We will give you the answers the following school day. Now, also remember that you have your Unit 3 vocabulary word review sheet that is due. Okay, that was handed out in class along with your vocabulary words, so make sure you're studying. We do have a quiz next week, so make sure you're studying for that. So for now, there you have it. If you have any questions, please ask in the Google Classroom. And other than that, have a great day, have a great weekend, and be sure to smile and be kind.